haven't met you before. Um, as I said in the intro, you've been coaching at Trois-Rivières for over 20 years. Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about your journey from athlete to coach and what attracted you to coaching the coaching profession?
First, when I was an athlete, like many of us, I needed to work. So I started to work at the club, I started coaching, and I keep progressing with younger athlete and to competitive athletes. So that that's how it started at yeah.
Good. Um, and how did you go about developing your coaching skills during this time?
Uh, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of coaches around me, so I had the chance to work with many of them. I tried to. I always had in mind that I can get something from every coaches. Some I get more, some maybe less, but I could have. I was always trying to learn from everyone, so
Okay.
that's why I been able to grow up as a coach.
Excellent. And do you have any go-to resources for ongoing learning that you read or listen to or watch videos?
Not specifically. I try like everyone. I try to look at everything. This year it's amazing because with the situation we are right now with the COVID, there's a lot of webinars, so we can get many idea, many subject, different subjects. So it's really good for us to being able to keep learning and keep get a new idea and yeah, keep progressing as a coach.
Okay, awesome. Um, okay, and so you started working with CKC earlier this year, although I'm sure you've worked with CKC in other roles, prior to this year, but officially as one of our coaches. So during our winter training camp in Florida, you joined the team, and can you tell the group a little bit about your role now as a CKC coach and how you worked in Florida to support the athletes and coaches during the training camp?
Yeah, it's pretty new. Before I had the chance to work on different project. I went to a couple of junior world championship as coach, so it was really fun to get into it. But this year I'm, if we can say, an official coach for CKC. My role changed a bit in the path, but at the beginning, as I was selected as an assistant coach, so I was there to work with the U21 group and to help with the senior men KI group. So I had the chance to work at different level of athletes. So it was really fun for me to get that opportunity and to be introduced in the team this way. And all the athletes, I find that they were really amazing. They were really respectful of everything that I tried to get to them. So yeah, it was a really nice experience last training camp.
And then it all ended so quickly. Um, it's interesting you talk about the athletes. So one of the questions that I did have about that is, how do you like to establish trust and connect with athletes, coming into a new coaching position?
It's not easy, but usually it's just by communication. If you take time to talk with the athletes, try to learn from them, learn what they like, what they are, they start to feel more comfortable with you, and they were more open to talk and get the trust you need with them.
Yeah, communication comes up again and again. I think it's critical, very important part of that coach-athlete relationships. And so, how do you collaborate with other coaches on the national team, or maybe with at the club level as well, to ensure alignment and maintain a consistent vision for the athletes technical and physical progression?
Again, communication. Uh, Last training camp, I had to work more closely with Frédéric Jobin, and all the way we knew each other from many years, so it was easy. But uh, we had to communicate what he was expecting from the athlete, from his group, and it was the same for me. Where I gave him some idea that other things that I may see, and maybe he didn't have the chance to see it. But yeah, again, communication, it's the most important thing, and it's pretty much the new role that I have, to be the U21 lead. It's a weird position, but yeah, uh, that's what I want to try to do. It's is about to try to establish a good communication between the senior coaches and me and the provincial and club coaches.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think we're all learning lots of lessons on the communication side now, and
Yeah,
how we can, take advantage of all the technologies that exist today to
yeah,
facilitate
exactly.
communication.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And I'm just going back to Florida. So, did you notice anything different on how the national team athletes prepare versus compared to a club training environment when you were working with the national team?
Not necessarily. It's pretty much the same because we all have the same kind of pattern that we're doing every year. We have the off-water training before in December, January. So every athlete needs to get ready to train, to get fit enough to be ready to the training camp. And even for maybe a 17 years old athlete and a 30 years old athlete, it's pretty much the same. Everyone wants to be ready to start their training camp, so it's just the level that they are. The older one are more experienced, and they know more what to do and what to expect when they're gonna get on the water in Florida. So it's only the small difference between the younger one and the older athlete. Yeah, athlete.
Great. Okay, thanks. I'm just kind of following the chat window here as well, and it sounds like there's a few people that might have audio issues, but I think Emily's helping with them. Okay, thank you, Mathieu. Um, so you obviously have a lot of experience converting club athletes into national team and elite world champion athletes. Laurence, obviously most successful women's canoe athlete that we've had to date. And so, what advice would you give club coaches that are supporting athletes that are making the transition from their club maybe onto the national team program? Um, yeah, I mean, so what advice would you give those coaches to help the athletes make that transition?
Uh, it's not easy because it's always depends of the athlete. Some may need you for many years, still with the senior team, and others will need you less. But at some point, they will always come back to you and talk to you, ask you question, and uh, they just need to. Those athletes, they just need to sometimes to speak, feel that you listen to them, and uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just need someone to be there for them, and it's not that the senior coaches are not there for them, but they knew them, but maybe a bit more, a bit less. So that's why they most of the time they coming back to you, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and I know you'll talk about that. I believe in your presentation about that relationship with the athlete and how important it is. So we won't go too far into that because. And then the last question I have, this is about one of your athletes. So Laurence, it's an open-ended question, but what characteristics is it that Laurence has that separates her from her competition? Is it technical, tactical, mental? Is it the whole package? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I can say it's the whole package. Uh, Everybody knows her really good, really well, and uh, yeah, everybody saw her, so you know that she has the almost the perfect physique for a canoer. So she's tall. She has a good muscular ability. She's strong. She it's not perfect, but she's paddling well. And I think her biggest strength is she's a really big competitor. She likes competition. She likes to race, and in her head, in her mind, she always think that she's gonna win, no matter what. She's gonna do everything to win a race.
Yeah, that joy for competition, that comfort in competition is so important, and I know I've seen that in athletes as
Yeah.
well. So that's interesting that you
And
bring that up.
it's not easy for every athlete. Sometimes some athletes are scared of the competition, but for her, it's she lives for that, so it's not an issue for her.
Great, good. Okay, well, I'm gonna pass it over to you. We're just gonna transition to our next vantage point here, and we'll pull up your presentation. Can you see that, Mathieu?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Well, over to you then.
Good. I just gonna take a look at my notes. Yeah. At first, when Graham asked us about doing a presentation ask the national team coach to a presentation, I had to make a lot of thinking because it's developing the development athlete. It's not like there's a perfect guide or something that you can use for an athlete and it's gonna be the same thing for everyone. So every athlete are because every athlete are really different, and it's not easy and it's not complicated. And with the PowerPoint that you will see, um, I don't have the pretension that I know the way of developing an athlete. There's a lot of way. There's a lot of things that can be done with an athlete and that can work. But I give you a couple of things that I did with the club before. Yeah. So first thing is it's not that hard. It's really simple. It's keep the athletes in our sport, and sometimes it's not easy because we're talking about maybe some athletes from 16 to 21 years old. So some of them they have the urge to take some decision. Some will want to go to work because they want to buy a car. Some want to maybe stop training because they want to spend more time at school and study more because they want to get in high difficult more difficult program. So they will quit paddling. So it's really important that we are aware of that. Um, yeah, we have to manage everything around that. And what I always had in mind is to try to think about developing the person, not only the athlete. Not it's not only about the training, but for many of them, uh, as a coach, you are maybe the one of the most important person in their lives. and for a couple of them, you maybe are more important than their parents. So you have to keep that in mind because you're someone that they will look at all the time, and they need to feel that you care about them. Because if not, they might quit, and we may lose some really good talented athletes. Yeah, and but if you want to develop the person, I add those three things that they were all related together, and they can influence in each other. So you have the training, the school, the social work, that those things are in their mind, and yeah, that's what they always have to think about, maybe every day. Next thing, yeah, first thing, the training. A couple of years ago, the LTAD, long-term athlete development app, was created. I'm not saying that that document was a perfect document, but there was really good things in it. And like I said, we are talking about 16 to 21 years old, so they are in the training to compete stage. So we have to always keep in mind that they are not final athlete. They will have to keep progress. The progression is uh, will always be there. So at the beginning of that stage, they will be at a certain level, and they will have to. We hope that they will keep progressing, and they're gonna be better at the end. But they're like I said, they are not. It's not their final level that they have. They will need to keep progress and keep working on different things. If you see there that in the objective, we can see that they will further develop and refine sport specific. Same thing here, further develop and refine racing skills. So we have to work with them to make those things happen, make them keep progressing, make them learn, make them accept that they will do some mistake, but you will work with them to make sure that they won't do it again. Yep. The next slide. It's Team Red. A couple of years ago, especially Marc Garanger and Jan Mortimer and a couple of other persons, they developed the Team Red program. We can see when I like that graph because we can see different stage on the development athletes path. So we start with the Olympic hopes, where in Canada we're usually good at international competition. After that, we have junior awards. Lately we had good result, but we have to make sure that we're not, yeah, it's not always the system that make them good. Sometimes it's only one specific athlete that make really good international results. So we have to be careful with that. Senior transitions, it's where in Canada that we have I think for myself, that it's the part that we are struggling the most. And I can't say that I have all the answer, but the thing that I want to do is really work on that. Yeah, before with when I talked with when James asked me the question, I talk about communication, and it's a major thing there. And I was a club coach before, and I think that it's we all need to improve in that area because without the communication, the athlete will lose their focus. They will lose the goal that we wanted them to go for. It's not easy from coming from 18 years old to race against the senior guys, but they have to do it, and they have to make sure that they're gonna keep improving, and they're gonna be able to keep progressing in that area. And at the senior stage, after 21, sorry, we can say we saw 21, but we can say till 23, and for some athletes it will be maybe longer. We really need to work as a group, as a team, to make them keep progressing and make sure that we're gonna have the best international result. And like I said before, everything is about communication, and we are gonna have to be better at it. And I include myself in it, because sometimes we are afraid to lose the athlete when we are club coaches, but we have to make sure that everyone's gonna be able to get on the team, and after that to get better result, get the team to an higher level. When I talk about training, there's the most important part for me always been the technique. And what I like 2 weeks ago on the RESTEZ Ditmer presentation is, and it's the same for me. There's no specific technique workout. Technique, it's all the time. It's because if you say that that training, it's we're doing some training for technique, they may think that in the other training, in the other intensity, they will they won't need technique. They will just go hard, respect the heart rate or anything else. So technique, it's always. For myself, it was always the major thing, and I don't. If you want to go fast, you need to pedal well. So that's why I wrote that you have to work technically at every intensity, every zone, and every condition. We have to understand the athlete that it's not only when it's nice on the water that you can paddle well. If it's a side wind, if it's wavy, you have to still try to paddle the best you can. Yes, it will be harder. Harder. Maybe you won't paddle as well, but you still need to try to paddle well, because if not, on racing day when it won't be perfect, they won't be able to paddle well. So technique, it's always a good way to know if the athletes are paddling well is you can use the stroke distance. If two athletes are side by side, they need to make sure that they are efficient, and the one who's paddling the slowest should be the one who's the more efficient. That means that he's gonna save some energy, and on a race, it means that he may be able to keep going longer. So stroke distance is another really key point about when we talk about technique. I try to control the stroke rate too, and especially about the maximum stroke rate. I'll show you a graph later about the stroke rate that the athlete should do on every every zone. So if you have a good group, they will try to push each other. So if you don't control them, they will all try to beat the other, and you have to control their stroke rate. So if you control the maximum, it means that if they want to go faster, they will need to go to paddle better. So it's another way to make sure that the technique is keep progressing. It's the graph that I thought. It's a really good guideline, but we have to make sure that even with a good guideline, we have to make sure that we can make some adaptation. Sometimes that graph you can throw it in the garbage and it won't work. So we can use it, but we have to make sure that it's not only that. Uh, we have to we and yeah, talk about technique the slide before. If you really try to make sure that the athletes are always paddling well, especially at the beginning of the season, you have the stroke rate range and the intensity that they should be at. Most of the time, if it means that, especially with the development athlete, it means that they may train at submax of those of the stroke rate or the heart rate. So, and it's not a bad thing if they train at submax, because when you are learning a new skill, a new technical thing, uh, it doesn't mean that it will come right away and you will be able to make it all the time. So if you accept that they're gonna go at the beginning submax, they will be able to make it at the beginning at maybe low GA1, after that GA1, and increasing at GA2, and so on and so on. So yeah, if you want them to progress technically, you have to accept that they may not be able to go all out for that workout all the time, and it's okay. They should, yeah, they should have always that in mind, that we have to keep the control of what we're doing at every zone. So maybe, like I said, maybe at the beginning of the camp or after a couple of weeks, they may not be able to go at the racing pace, but it will come if they really think about it all the time, and if the athletes really want to change something, they have to do it like just I said, all the time. And it's a major point that it's not sometimes, it's not okay, today I'm gonna work on it, and at that intensity I'm gonna work on it. It's always, all the time. If they always have that in mind, the progression will be much faster. Uh, for the next one, like I said, that we have to develop. I think that I have to have in mind that I want them to develop as a person. Uh, School is a big part for many of those athletes. At the club in Trois, we had the chance that we have a really nice program. It's called Sport Etudes, and it's, for us, it's a really good, it was a really good conciliation between sport and school. It's not perfect, but if we talk about high school athlete, an high school athlete, let's say that he's gonna go at school all morning from 8 to maybe 11:30, and after that he's gonna be free to train. So yes, sometimes it's harder, and they may have some back-to-back workout, but at least they can have more than one workout in a day. So let's say in fall they're gonna paddle at 1 in the afternoon. They're gonna do their training, and after that they will be able to do a good weight session or a good run. Sometimes they may go back on the water at 4 if they don't do weights or run. So we are able to have a good good training habits with them, especially with that program. The last couple of years, we've been able to modify dates for exam, and lately, this year and last year, we were able to even made some exam in Florida. So it was really nice to have that, because as a coach, I always it was always a frustration when we came back from for a training camp and the athlete said, "Oh, I can't be here for two training this week or 3 days because I have to catch up in that in math, or I have to do some exams." So that way, when they're coming back, they are free to keep doing the training that we had to do. Another thing that we have to always keep in mind is the social. Uh, Sometimes it's not easy as a coach to accept that, but especially for a development athlete from 16 to whatever, 21 or 23, they need to feel that they belong somewhere, or so with at something. So yeah, if they have a really good training group, they they will be with some people that they have the same interests or about the same interests, and they will be every day with two to three times a day. Yeah, 2 to 3 times a day with the same person. So it means that they're gonna be friend with them. They're gonna have fun. They have to learn to have fun to train with their teammate. We have to, as coaches, we have to get involved with it. Sometimes in training group, there might be some conflict, and we may have our first reaction is they will manage it and they will fix it. But sometimes we have to get into it and make sure that bring them together and fix the problem if there's any, because they're so often together that we can't let them do that by themselves, or if it doesn't work. We have to make sure that everybody are in the same page, even if they are not best friends. They need to respect each other at least. So yeah, so we have to be involved as coaches with the athlete. Um, like I wrote, with the conciliation between sport and school, it leaves place for social. So yeah, they sometimes they need to feel that they have a life outside of the sport, outside of the training. So yes, sometimes in the weekend they may go for a party and we don't really like it. I speak for myself, so it's not always fun having an athlete who's not ready to do the workout, or they're not resting instead of yeah, they're partying instead of resting. But yeah, they have to accept. We have to accept that. Yeah, it happens. We were there at those age, and probably that we all did it. So yeah, it's important that we leave them the chance to do that, because, like I said on the maybe the second slide, we have to keep them in the sport. So if there's too much restriction for them, they won't stay. So we want to keep them in the sport as long as possible, and we never know. Maybe an average athlete at 17 years old may become a really good athlete at 21, or one of our best athlete. Yeah, and as an example, Maybe I don't know if he's there, but and he may not like it, but I didn't work with him directly. But a guy like Hugues Fournel never did the junior worlds, were a good junior athlete, but when we think about him, he was a major athlete in the senior 200-meter group. So if he didn't have the chance, or he didn't have a good training group, or the if the social aspect was not considered at that time for him, he may have not keep paddling, and we may have lost him. So we never know. An athlete can be really good at any age, so as we should try to keep them as long as possible and try to find any way to keep them as long as they don't are a negative effect on the others. For the U21 program, it's and my next major work, if I can say it like that. My goal is to try to make the link between the club provincial coaches and the senior discipline coach. One way is to try to integrate it and identify athletes to the senior team. I already talked to the senior coach and asked them if it's possible when training camp will, when we will be able to make some training camp to integrate the athletes in the senior team. A way to do it is because I ask them to maybe give me the periodization about of their next cycle, if we can say like that. So that way we can put an athlete a couple of times a week, put another athlete maybe for the complete cycle. Some will be able to do it, some not, and it will depend of the coaches or the athlete. If the athlete doesn't want to do it, or if the senior coach doesn't, because we all know that sometimes there's specific times in the year that maybe the senior team, the senior coach may not have the time to have a development athlete with him, because he's doing some maybe some assessment in K4, and we don't. For myself, I don't want to have an athlete in a group that the coach won't work with him, won't care about the athlete. So they need to be when they are in the group, they need to have someone who's gonna work with him and to make sure that he's progressing. It's important that those athletes have the chance to see the level they are at and how far they are from the best athlete that we have in Canada. So it will be one way, different way that we can try to integrate those athletes in the group. In the same time, it will help us to make sure that the training program won't be really different from the senior. What I'd like to see for the next year is having something similar, having the same mentality, philosophy, the same interest about the training, to make sure that we're going in the same direction about everything, about the technique, about the training. That way, the athlete will feel his integration will be much easier. They should feel that when I go with them, it's just we just keep following what we used to do. It's just longer, faster, those things, to make sure that they don't feel lost when they're going to the national team. And after what I did this year with the most of the U21 athletes that I work with, is at the end of the camp I send and I want to do it again and make sure that all the coaches who work with the U21 athletes on in training camp is to send a resume to the athletes and the coach after the camp to give advice to make sure that everybody are in the same page and the athlete will know, okay, I have to do that to make sure to keep improving. To if I want to get in the I don't know this C2 or that K4, I need to make sure that I fix that I am able to do that thing to make sure that that athlete will have the chance to integrate himself in any team boat or in any group to make sure that their progression will still be the main thing, the thing that we all want. And yeah, before going to the question, I put that picture because I think it's a really good way to conclude to resume everything. Is it was last year, last national. The guy in the middle, it's Edouard Boumi. He was 19 years old, and he won the C1 200, the senior men C1 200 at last national. I know that, and he knows that those two guys against him were not at their best. They were not maybe ready for that race. But for him, it was a major. It had a major impact on him. Maybe in his future progression, it will be a key race for him because he was able to compete against the better athletes. Mark for any canoer athletes, it's almost an icon. So racing against him and be able to finish ahead of him, it was really a big team for him. And even if he's not making the national team, that's not what I want for him. But he will be able to say that someday he was able to finish ahead of Marco the show. And if it put him on the national, if he's able to make it to the national team, probably that race will have had been a major race for him. So thank you, and if you have any questions.
Okay, excellent. I'm just gonna flip screens here, and I'll get my video turned on. Well, thank you, Mathieu. That was really cool and a great way to end the presentation. I think it just goes to show how important the memories and the moments can be in an athlete's career, and defining moments like that are so special. And the coach's role in that all ties back into it, and it just it's another important reminder of the critical role that, as you said in your presentation, that a coach can play in an athlete's development and in their life overall. So, and I like how you talked about the importance of dealing with the athlete and the person, and keeping and holding on to the athletes. Lots of really good important lessons shared there. So if people have questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A window. While you think of your questions, I'll maybe just start with a question to get it going. But feel free to use that chat window and type in to send your questions over to us. At the start of the presentation, you talked a little bit about how important it is to retain the athletes and keep them in the sport, and keep positive experiences for the athletes. Do you have any examples of athletes that maybe pulled away, and something that you had to do to try to keep them in the sport athletes that were maybe on a pathway to the national team, and then other things came up in their life, not maybe specific for the athletes, but some of the things that you did as a coach to try to keep the athletes into the sport?
Um, yep, last year was a a good example. We had the at the club we had the K4 project with racing at trials. Some of the guys were thinking about maybe quitting the sport, and when they saw that there might have been a race at trials, they decided to keep going for at least another year. Uh, at the end, it didn't work, but at least they trained one more year. They did a camp in Florida. They try to be as competitive as possible, and yeah, it gives them a goal. So we had to find a way sometimes to keep them. So for them, it was the K4. It could have been something else, but yeah.
Hmm. Okay, awesome. We have a question here from Eric, and his question is, what is the hard piece of coaching when trying to promote confidence during the winter and the pre-competition season?
Uh, it's not easy. Sometimes what helped me a lot and what I work on is having some really good training group. That way, I'm not the kind of coach who's gonna be on the athlete and always yell at them or try to push them and go on them all the time. So having a good training group, it helps to stay motivated. They are, yeah, they see each other. And sometimes they come. Yes, they train, but they come. They may come only for seeing their teammate, and maybe they won't have the best workout of their life that day, but at least they were there and they try to do the best of what they cannot that day.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Vous pouvez aussi demander votre question en français si vous voulez. Uh, we have a question here from Ryan Blair. How did you manage when national team athletes returned to the club training environment in between their national team training camps?
Um, Most of the time, they they do part of their training by not by their own because they do their things and I'm around them, and the other half of the workout they try to integrate themselves in a group. So, like I said with before, with even with the Eric's question, for me training was always a major thing, and most of the time we were able to find a group for any athlete. So that way, it keeps them motivated, and it helps to make sure that they are not doing their things by their own because I agree it can be tough for them if they're coming back at the club and they just do their things apart and they don't feel they are already part of the club. So try to step in the group, and you know a training program is not really different from one to the other. So a G1 workout is a G1 workout. So if instead of doing 3 times 20 minutes, if they are doing 4 times 15, it's pretty much the same at the end. So we can manage things a bit like that.
And I liked how you talked about in your presentation. One of the things as a coach that you try to do is to send a report back to the athletes and their club coaches after training camps to help kind of integrate the training and make the coaches feel part of that journey as well, to share the learnings and lessons with everyone in communication. It's all
Yeah.
kind of part of that shared responsibility. And so I think that's great. Nous avons aussi une question de Patrick en français. Salut Mathieu, quel est le ratio d'entraînement en salle, weight training, cardio, pulling during paddling durant l'hiver versus la saison de compétition?
Je vais répondre en français dans le fond. Avec le programme qu'on avait, le programme sport-études, ça nous permettait d'avoir au moins 2 entraînements par jour, 6 jours semaine. Ce qu'on faisait durant l'hiver, dans le fond, c'est essayer d'avoir au moins un cardio par jour, soit course à pied, ski de fond, natation, et 3 à 4 muscu par semaine. On a réussi avec le temps aussi à s'équiper et à avoir des ergos, des machines à ramer. Ça, une fois que la saison sur l'eau est terminée, genre peut-être mi-novembre ou dans ces coins-là, on allait plus ou moins 3 fois semaine sur la machine à ramer. C'est sûr que c'est beaucoup plus exigeant que sur l'eau. On faisait 3 fois semaine des entraînements de plus ou moins 30-40 minutes. Puis ça permet justement de ne pas trop perdre et d'être capable de bien repartir au camp d'entraînement en Floride, qui sont soit mi-janvier, début février, tout dépendant du niveau des athlètes.
Merci, Mathieu. Next question, back to English, from Connor in BC. For a sport that already struggles with retention, this pandemic is affecting motivation for athletes to stay in the sport even more. What are you doing to keep athletes engaged and motivated in Trois-Rivières?
I guess it's pretty much the same than everywhere. We try to do some Zoom training session. We send the program. It's a really, really weird situation, and honestly, I don't know. I don't know how it will affect the retention of our athlete. We try to give them some goals, what they can expect maybe for fall or the next season, but for on the day-to-day, yeah, it's not easy, and I don't know. At least we were able to go back on the water. For us, it's tough because we can't coach. We are just sitting in the motorboat and see the athletes passing by and do their things, but at least they are on the water. And when they could have get on the water the first couple of days, especially with the younger one, we could have seen that they were really happy to see each other in person, in real life. So I hope that at least keep moving forward with the confinement and make sure that now they are 2x2. Maybe in a couple of weeks they will be able to be in a much bigger room.
Thank you, and I know it's like you said, it's a tough situation, and I think a lot of our organizations, our provincial associations, and our clubs have been doing lots of really good work in the virtual environment and trying to keep the athletes engaged. I've seen some really good efforts, and I know everyone's been pushing that as far as it can go, and now we're turning back our attention to trying to get people back on the water in a safe way, respecting all the local and regional guidelines. And so it's going to be it has been a different process for each club and each province, but we're getting there and moving in the right direction. So I know everyone's excited about that. I have one last question before we sign off. And this one's from Lisa. Salut Mathieu. Dans la situation que nous sommes avec le COVID-19, selon toi, sur quoi devrions-nous focuser pour garder notre athlète motivé afin de les garder dans le sport?
Ouais, c'est pretty much the same des hors. Ouais, ben, je peux leur dire en français aussi, là. C'est vraiment leur trouver des moyens pour que ce soit par le parti social qui puisse se regrouper en sous-groupes. Là, pour l'instant, c'est deux par deux et graduellement ça peut augmenter. Ça va être vraiment de travailler sur les objectifs court, moyen, long terme pour les aider à progresser. Puis les objectifs, ça peut être par rapport à plein de choses. Ça peut être par rapport à la technique, par rapport au physique, essayer même s'il n'y a peut-être pas des compétitions qu'on va pouvoir faire durant l'année, c'est peut-être de donner des possibilités de faire des time control, un peu ce style de choses-là qui peut peut-être au moins donner une certaine motivation à ces athlètes-là.
OK, merci beaucoup Mathieu. C'était très agréable de te recevoir sur notre Connect with CKC aujourd'hui. Thank you very much, Mathieu. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and sharing your thoughts with our group. I want to wish you all the best for the rest of the year, and we'll see what happens. But good luck with your training, and look forward to having you with our coaching staff into the future. So thank you very much.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone, and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.